This is Around the Blockchain. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin price action. What is going on? We just had a pump, and then it was just followed immediately by a dump. Also, should you sell in May, walk away? And of course, we're going to break down the CZ arrest. You know what? We're just going to look at the guests. Who do we have? We got 4 phenomenal guests. So go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to start with Piano Matty B. Piano Matty B, how are you doing? Was it a nice balmy 10s or 20s today?
Even better, it was 5 degrees Celsius. A little bit of spitting rain/snow, but we'll take it. I was in my t-shirt barbecuing all lunchtime. It was perfect.
Matty B is that guy that wears shorts in the winter and says, my legs don't get cold. Also today, we have Jake Claver. Jake, how are you doing today? You look spiffy as always.
I'm doing great. Not as good as the blonde broker, but...
we haven't fixed that yet. That is an L for the production team, right? I see him furiously typing.
He looks way better than me. I mean, so
no.
It's okay.
All right. No, you're being nice though. But all right. Also on today, we have Johnny Crypto. Johnny, did we get the right name? Did we get the right hopper? Did we get the right amount of underscores?
It's Johnny _ crypto for the Twitter. That's my other Twitter. But you guys are doing great. I mean, I'm pulling my hair out, and I'm getting more white hair after all what's going on with the dump right after the Fed meeting. So I'm with you guys.
Yeah. Plus, Johnny was up late night in those protests. I think I saw him in some of the videos. We won't reveal what side he was on. And then last but not least, to wrap it all up, we got Drew Wolfer. He was just saying how much of a gamer he is. Drew, do you think gaming will take crypto into... Will we get a mini bull run from gaming this cycle again?
I mean, I think the gaming is going to pop off. It always does, right? And it's going to depend on Solana and AVAX are probably going to vie for the top spots on that. So yeah, luckily I just keep my name the same on every platform, so you guys can't mess it up, right? It's just Drew Wolfer everywhere, man. I trademarked it and everything. So yeah, let's get it.
You take that, other Andrew Wolfers in the globe. There's at least, I know there's dozens of you. There's at least dozens. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin's price action here. I want to go ahead and pull up the charts because, folks, if you're looking at the 4-hour like I am right now, I forgot. We can go full screen on this one, baby. If you're looking at the 4-hour like I am, you can see a little bit of a dump, but actually, there was a pump that happened not that long ago. Let me go ahead and stretch this y-axis. I really thought we were going to have a very bullish period because this is the moment Jerome Powell essentially said does not look like, rate cuts look likely if we get some bad job data. And then, boom, the markets loved hearing that, rate cuts are back on the table, maybe at least 2, maybe at least 3. We had a nice little short pop there if we were just to measure that out. About 5%. In about an hour and a half right there. Very, very nice pump. And then just immediately followed by a dump. But the dump it's just the same dump that we've been seeing every single dump. 20% pullback, 20% pullback, 20% pullback, 20% pullback. What did we see just now, folks? Well, if we go to the 4-hour, just to make sure we can really get an accurate reading here, another 20, but this time 22% pullback. Now, Piano Matty B, I'm going to throw it to you first here. Will this dip exceed this 20? It's within 1 or 2 percentage points. What are your thoughts on this current dip? Are we finally going to break the streak of a bounce after around 20% pullback?
Well, we were just talking earlier how when we were peaking out, we're like, well, what about a 30% pullback? It's just, I don't like breaking the cycle. We need a 30% pullback. And then now we're at 23%. And everyone's like, oh, maybe this isn't the great idea. But I got some scary news for you because I did this last week and I just wanted to reiterate the magic of the 61.8% fib, the goldenness of golden ratios. This is the daily chart. We just broke it. 61.8%. And we go on the weekly, you can see I drew this little doodle here about 2 months ago, and look how it's been following it to a T. And we're right breaking the 50% fib, and right underneath the 61.8 is that 54.4-ish. Now, we hit it on the daily, we should hit it on the weekly, and egads, DZ, if we go to the monthly, like watching economic paint dry, 61.8% is down at 45K. So we know the universe loves the 61.8% fib. It's how it basically rebirth renewal. That's how we get these cycles to open, close, and bounce off. So I don't know. I got my my bowling bumpers. You know, when the kids are bowling.
Yeah,
One is
yeah.
at 45K. I'm intellectually and emotionally prepared for 45K with a little bit of dry powder in there to get some of the gettings when the getting's good.
All right, go ahead and hit that like button because Piano Matty B isn't emotionally dead inside. The crypto market hasn't sapped the last of his juices, but you know, he has
I died a long time ago, DZ.
I thought you had at least like a thimbleful of emotion there somewhere down at the bottom. Thank you, Chad. We got a very, very active chat today. Famous Miss Peaches, Rocky Trucky, a whole bunch of people in here downtown. All right, people getting mad about the dump right now. Mad at autocorrect too, but I'm not going to say what they're typing. Now, Jake, you were actually a little bit more bearish than most of the guests that we've had. And Jake, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to admit it. I was wrong. You were right. You were looking a little bit more prophetic as we, experiencing a little bit more than a 20% pullback. Now that everyone, are you still contrarian? Now that we're all bearish, are you now flipping a little bit bullish? What are your thoughts on Bitcoin's price action now?
It all depends on the constraints, right? So we expect this type of pullback in the market, 30 or 40% drawdown, just like you mentioned, is just part of the cycle, right? I think we're a bit further along than a lot of people think we are. I think, top is going to come in between 75 and 80,000, or maybe we already have topped, if we don't get the correction here. And again, I know people hate me for that. That's okay. I'm still watching Tether. So depending on what all plays out with that, like I said, constraints are really what I'm watching.
All right, and I got some hot Tether takes, but I don't know if I'm ready to just share them publicly just yet. Now, Johnny, you do a little bit of trading. What is your thoughts on using leverage? I know there's a lot of stop loss hunting happening at the moment. There's a lot of liquidation hunting happening at the moment. What are your thoughts with trading with leverage in the market today?
Oh gosh, it's very manipulated. That's why we get a lot of the pin bar wicks where you see a candle with a large wick to it. It's because it goes through there, hits a bunch of people, stops, and then it sells. So it's all the magic money just keeps getting sold. So leverage, pretty much, probably nobody wants to hear this, but anything over 10% is essentially gambling. You can make quite a bit of money with leverage, but you also lose a lot of money with leverage. And I am guilty of that as well because trading is very psychological. You end up marrying your position and you get addicted to seeing your account go up. And so usually then your next trade is probably twice as big as your last one. And then that's when stuff kind of goes down. And then you start adding to that. So leverage is, it becomes a big problem. So I advise people to stay around that, 1 to 5 if you're going to do something. But again, it goes back to that rule. You got to have money to make money rather than just have $100, leverage it at 150, and you're like, sweet, I got 2 Bitcoin, but then it's gone like that kind of a thing. So that's my answer, DZ.
All right. Now, just quick follow-up, Johnny. Looking at this range that we're looking at, the 4-hour candles here, we're kind of testing the bottom of the range. If you were to open along, and I'm not saying you were, at what point do you think would be a healthy stop loss? Do you think it is this around this $52,000 level, or should you go, maybe even a little more conservative, a little higher?
Gosh, see, that looks like a bad risk versus reward trade because you want to at least enter a trade where you have like a 1 to 3 ratio. So I would try to keep it between that. So if I was going to enter at the support right now, I would probably have my stop right around 56,000, maybe a little bit over, because the market loves to see even numbers. So you don't want to just have it be right at 56,000 because chances are, it'll probably go under there. But if you're looking to go long, I mean, we are hitting support, but really, there is a good chance since we've broken down between 58, 59,000 that we might see a touch in the next week or so on 52. I'm here trying to tell myself, as much as I want to go long, I'm looking at stuff and I'm going, man, it might be smarter to go short at the moment if we can't hold the little support that we're getting right now.
All right. Might be smarter to go short now. If I don't know what you're feeling at the moment, but Drew, things are feeling a little bit bearish, but the fear and greed, I feel like has been reset to a healthy level. Do you think that we needed to get a little bit of greed out of the market?
100%. Yeah. In my opinion, this is what healthy markets do. You don't just go up parabolically. I like the fact that we're taking little legs up and then pullbacks, like those little 20% pullbacks. Obviously, little in this market, right? Because we've seen 80% pullbacks and stuff like that. So that's relatively small in our market. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you got to shake out a little bit of that greed. And let's be real, the Bitcoin ETF volume has been slowly declining. They came in really heavy at first, and now it seems like retail is kind of controlling, not necessarily controlling the market, but it's having a little bit more sway on the market now. And there's still a lot of people, even at these 50 some odd $1,000 levels, that are still in massive profits when they bought at 25, 30K just a couple of months back. So yeah, I mean, I think it's healthy.
All right. Well, with these pullbacks, quick follow-up, Drew, are there any altcoins that you've been buying? And I'll go ahead and admit, I opened along on some alts live on the morning stream. I'm going to pull it up in a little. In fact, I'll just go ahead and share my screen. I just typed in my password. I feel like I got stopped out. I did put stop losses in the green there. Let's go ahead. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. How are these things still? Hey, what do you know? My stop loss was maybe not aggressive enough. So I'm still in these. So what altcoins, Drew, are you looking at? You know, when there is a pullback, you know, what do you have on your radar?
Yeah, so I tend to go a little bit more conservative with the altcoins that I'm trading. So most likely what I would be looking at is probably the more, if I want to go more volatile, but still less risky than going in on like a meme coin or something like that, I'd probably hit Solana as a trading pair. And then I would also say I like Avalanche. I like to trade AVAX a lot, and especially FTM, just because they have pretty decent volatility, right? So if I'm seeing a pullback, a lot of times when they bounce pretty hard, especially relative to the Ethereums, the Bitcoins of the world. I wouldn't necessarily go too much. If I want to go a little bit more conservative, I'd probably say, you know, go in on like some Polygon and things of that sort, maybe even XRP, but I almost exclusively don't trade XRP like ever. For good reasons,
actually I have a hot take on
stuff.
I got a hot take on Solana. I believe you folks are going to hear it first. So I pulled up WIF. Now, Drew, I'm interested in some of the other guests. I'm interested to know what you have to say about this. And if you look, I want to look at exchanges and see what SOL WIF pairs that there are. It doesn't look like anything's popping up too big, but there's a whole class of tokens that are locking up liquidity. And when you lock up liquidity, you can't just lock up your coin. You have to lock up the coin that is the trading pair. And so I think a lot of Solana, you know, with the dog WIF hat, I'm using this as a specific example because in the contract, liquidity gets locked up. Technically supposed to be forever. I don't know if, you know, people pouring over the code, it seems like it is locked up forever. Does that mean, you know, now you have Solana locked up forever, almost acting as a Bitcoin that is now lost out of the ecosystem? You know, so a lot of people, there's a lot of things about Solana and Ethereum that, you know, people aren't taking into consideration. As these meme coins get bigger, as the liquidity pools grow and grow and grow, that's more ETH that's gone forever. That's more Solana that's gone forever. You know, just a point. Quick thoughts on that, Drew. I don't know if you've heard anyone say that ever.
No, I haven't really heard too many people talk about that, but it is a good point because at the end of the day, whenever you're pulling more coins out of the technical, like circulating supply, and they are locked up, and hopefully they are locked forever, like, you know, call the devs and I guess figure out, right? We'll see soon enough. But if they are actually locked up forever and they're taken out of the circulating supply, then technically it is easier to push it up and down for that matter, right? Because there's less in the circulation in the entire world. So it's easier to buy, or it's easier to push the price up or down for that matter. So yeah, I would agree with that assessment.
All right. Yeah. More and more SOL locked up every day as everyone, you know, starts to trade on WIF. Now, Piano Matty B, I want to roll forward here and talk about selling in May and walking away. It's something I've heard for years in crypto. You know, I have this article right here, sell in May and go away. I like walk away a little bit better. Seasonality of crypto asset returns. It's a pretty interesting stat. October to May, if you held then sold, you're up about 1,400% over the last few years. But if you do the opposite, May, and then go up to October, you're actually down about 30%. So we're seeing some pretty interesting monthly averages. What are your thoughts on sell in May, walk away, Piano Matty B? Is that just funny because it rhymes, or does it actually have some value behind that little catchphrase?
I mean, it's somewhat legit. If the data's there, it does rhyme, so it has a sweet little rhyme to it. But at the same time, I mean, if you're trading it, it's at your own risk. My time horizon is low, so I'm locked in. So this summer, I don't have any plans on walking away. In fact, I'll be watching the charts probably 16 hours a day. Not that I'm going to be trading them, but I do think, if you were to play that walk away and make, you might come up ahead, but then you're risking it all. I would never risk selling Bitcoin at any price. Like I'm a long-term holder. I don't even know if there is a price that I would sell it at. So I'm long-term.
All right. I love that mentality. Now, Jake, did you sell in May or April or earlier, or, did you do it this cycle? Did you do it in 2021 when it was a great idea? I, for one, have not. I wish I took more profits. Well, what's your personal story here?
Yeah, anytime there's a lot of greed in the market, it's always a good time to take profit, right? We've seen a pullback here, and you mentioned that indicator a while ago. It's kind of reset itself a little bit. Anytime we get over 80, 85 on the greed index, it's always, it could continue to go, right? But you never go broke taking profits. Got to be mindful of the tax implications you have there. But yeah, I think there's some truth to that statement. Obviously, the data shows that. I think, like I mentioned before, we're in for some news, whatever that's going to be. Maybe the pullback is only to 45,000, like Matty B says, but I'm kind of with him. I'm looking more at that level before we see more upside.
All right. Well, you brought up, coin market caps. I actually pulled up the fear and greed index. This is about 2 years worth of data, not quite. And you can see we have reset to a little bit more of a healthy level, pretty close to 50, which is neutral. I couldn't help but notice this was where we were at 122, 124. Let's just go ahead and run it back turbo here. 122, 124. That is going to be January. And we go to 122. Wow, folks. This is these three candles is 122 to 124. Just if we were to measure this out, what was that upside later? Well, you end up seeing an 85% pump on Bitcoin over the next 2 days. I'm actually probably going to have to make a video on this tomorrow. Now, Johnny, I know, me and you probably both have some issues with our emotions when it comes to leverage trading. My issue is, I'm okay closing a trade in a loss. I have issues taking profit. I'm always thinking it can go higher. Johnny, are you going to talk me out of going long here, or are you saying, are you going to say, hey, no, maybe we should wait? What are your thoughts when you see this fear and greed low, and last time it was that low?
Dude, that's a difficult one, because you've got to be willing to be wrong for entering something like this. The funding fee is screaming that should be a bounce on a lot of these leverage platforms.
Could you double click on that? What do you mean by funding fees showing that, there should be a little bit of a reversal?
So funding fees, every 6 hours or so, you've got to pay for your borrowed money. And so that's why people end up, seeing their stop losses or their liquidation price go up and up and up. It's because they're paying for borrowing the money. It depends on how much you're leveraging. But usually what I see is when everyone is going long, that funding fee is quite a bit higher. And when everyone is super scared, that funding fee is fairly low. And right now it's considerably low, which isn't always the case. It's kind of like when you see the RSI go below being the oversold deal, you're like, oh, it's ready for a bounce. But you could be within a day, you could be a week, because things could stay stagnant for a while. But with us being at a support level here, and I love the quote by Mark Twain that says, when you find yourself on the side of majority, you should stop and reflect. And it reminds me of when everyone was saying Bitcoin was going to $10,000. It was going to $10,000. Nobody wanted to buy Bitcoin at $18,000 or $25,000. Well, what happened? It went to like 17, and then it went to 70, right? And a lot of people missed out because they wanted to buy it under 10. This could be another scenario where we don't have a magic wand to be like, hey, where exactly is it going to be? But it's risk versus reward. If you're going to do something like this, you should probably have a tight stop, because the next real catch on stuff is what the panel is saying is around that $52,000 to $45,000 range, which at that point would be an amazing opportunity to buy Bitcoin. But how are you going to feel emotionally when it gets down there? Are you going to have any money left over because you might have already thrown all of it at this dip? And B, if it goes down that, what's to prevent you from going, well, it's going to go to 30 now, right? So you got to have good consensus behind yourself on what you're doing and believe in what's happening, right?
As the catchphrase go, you got to put them on the table. You got to put them on the table. Your convictions, that is. Nothing, no other alluding there. All right, Drew, I did have this stat I wanted to just show the chat and show the viewers at home. This is just so insane. Buying Bitcoin in October and selling in April, 1,449% return over the last 5 years. But if you bought in May and sold in September, you're actually losing 30% on your Bitcoin trade. Well, you know, I feel like we all feel like we just lost 30% today. In fact, just in the last few hours. What are your thoughts on, you know, the mentality being reset? Are we in a good place? Are enough people bearish and the funding rates, you know, bearish enough where, hey, you know, maybe a reversal? What are your thoughts on the reversal's chances?
Man, I think it's hard to gauge this one because it's such a different market that we're in now with the ETFs that have been approved and with the pending Ethereum ones, dude. It's such a tough market to try to, I mean, and we just cracked all-time highs. We cracked it before the halving too, which never happens. So, you know, this one's really hard to call, but I would have to agree with the panel and say that the 45 to about 50K range is probably the best that you're going to see short term, unless, let's say, you know, a bunch of people come in and sell their BlackRock ETF shares and they have to dump a bunch or something like that. I can see some black swan event like that taking it down lower. But from here, I mean, I just don't see it going much lower. I could see it capitulating for a little bit, but I'm agreeing a lot more with Piano Matty B's doodles that he had on his graph, where it was kind of just like capitulation, and then boom, you know, a couple of months from now. So I could see that happening as well. I wouldn't hang my hat on it's going to go too terribly low comparatively to at least where we're at right now. I could see, you know, $10,000 shed maybe.
Yeah, you know, going from 18 to 22% drawdowns and seeing a 23% drawdown, I'm not quite ready to throw in the towel that, you know, this is within that standard deviation. All right, let's talk about this guy. I'm talking about number 4 himself, CZ, how his good guy reputation, I want to read this, secured a 4-month prison sentence. That is right. It's almost like we're in a simulation, but the exchange he founded agreed to pay first. This maybe has something to do why it's such a short sentence. He's paying a $4 billion fine. During the sentencing, the lawyers and even prosecutors acknowledge he's not your normal criminal. No, he's a philanthropist. He's a do-gooder, first-time lawbreaker. He's a family man, him and Yee-Hee. Turned himself in to accept whatever may come. One more thing. The judge said that he spent the weekend poring over the letters of support for CZ until the book they were contained in literally fell apart. I don't think I've ever seen a volume of letters. No word on whether or not these were B&B holders that got in at a really cheap price. Could be, I'm not sure, you know, just allegations and speculations at this point. Here's the photo that got everyone riled up here. This photo right here. So the 40-some-odd-year-old pays the $4 billion fine, gets 4 months for the money laundering after tweeting 4. It's also happened on the 4th month of the year in 2024. I'm not even a numerologist. I don't believe the Jim Carrey movie, but it is a lot of interesting coincidences. Piano Matty B, I'm just interested. What is your take of this situation? Your take of your fellow Canadian CZ?
Well, I'm not even sure what the hell he did. What was it? Jaywalking? Like I haven't really seen a headline. What did he do?
He allowed people to send ones and zeros back and forth.
Like, is that it? Seriously? Do we have an actual
He didn't
charge?
have the money transmitter license. Meanwhile, billions of dollars of money traded hands of Americans. So,
well, see, the sick part of it is that if he didn't have so much money, it would be an afterthought, right? But all these things are, it's just lawfare. You know, how much money can we get from him? Maybe we can get $4 billion from him. And for a guy like him, you know, $40 billion, just, you know, $4 billion to us, it's heartbreaking. I can't even fathom it for him, but it's like $4 billion. And I guess if this gets that American monkey off his back, well, I guess 4 months is not too bad. It'll probably be in a nice little country club, hopefully. Like, I mean, does the guy deserve to be in hardcore prison? No. I think all the psychopathic elected elite should be in hardcore prison, but not CZ.
All right. I would agree. Now, Jake, do you think the big purse strings, $4 billion, he had to have it to spend it, right? Or to pay the fine. If Gary Gensler fines me $4 billion, I'm sorry, Gary, it's going to be a law. We better have really bad inflation if that's going to pay off. But, they see a target, they see a $4 billion payday. Do you think that had any motivation on whether or not to pursue charges? Do you think his giant bankroll maybe facilitated stronger actions from the Department of Justice?
Yeah, it's definitely a target, right? When you become so large that you're difficult to ignore, and they did, have some issues, and they created Binance US, but they still allowed some people to transmit transactions on their platform under undisclosed accounts. Like, I could see why, he got the slap on the wrist and the fine and the sentence. I think what was given to him was fair under the circumstances. Like you mentioned, he's got a pretty large bankroll. BNB is, I wish I'd got in on BNB when it was like 7 cents or whatever it was before it went to $700 in the last go. I know some people that got in at 10 cents. But anyway, yeah, he can afford it. The prison sentence isn't horrible. I think obviously, a lot of people do like him. Nobody lost any money, like that's the deal. And some of these other cases, like what are the losses for people? It's really just, unregistered securities trading. And so the fine and the fee makes sense to me.
I'm looking at the early days of BNB's price action. Well, yeah, could have got in a nice little 10 cent. Well, it actually kept dipping, everybody. Look at that. There's a dip to 3 cents, I think, at one point. Yeah, you could have got BNB under a nickel. Let's just fast forward to today. Where are we at? Oh, yeah, $500. I hate when I miss out on, 20x for $1. Those dang 1,000x's. I'm sorry, 10,000. 10,000x. It's 1,000x for 50 cents. 10,000x. Jake, why did you give up the 10,000x? Do you hate money? I'm sorry to bring it up. Let's move on. Let's move on. Sorry, Jake. Put the gun. Now, Johnny, what are your thoughts of this prison sentence? One person we got saying, it's a fair sentencing. Let's not talk about the fine. Is 4 months fair? Should he spend a day behind bars, or should it have been years? What are your thoughts here?
I don't think it was probably as bad as what Sam Bankman-Fried did, but he was ordered to pay back like $11 billion, and he got fined or what was it? It was like over 20 years or something that he is sentenced to. But those are two very big players. CZ's just been around a lot longer. So I want to know, there's probably some maybe regulation handshakes going on behind closed doors for a deal like this to go through. So to keep him out of prison, but they're not going to publicly say anything of that. Maybe I'm speculating. I just think the entire world is corrupt. And that's one of the reasons why I love Bitcoin, is because you get to somewhat be your own bank and not have to answer to, like I said, just the corporate America. But at the same time, I'm contradicting myself, because in order for my pocket to go get deeper, I need some regulation, because we do need the ETFs and we do need the big banks to come in and pump up the price of this stuff. And back what we were talking about before, I ended up going long. While we're here, and
yes,
I was
almost going to add to my tea along at the perfect point. I didn't, because so I'm trying to host a show, folks. I would love to just look at the 1 minute candles, but hey, we're trying to make something entertaining.
Anyway,
all right, Johnny, you're long.
Usually in a dip like this. Sorry. Go DZ.
I'm loving it. So you went long. Tell us about it.
So yeah, no, I went long on both Ethereum and Bitcoin, and part of the reason is, again, that funding fee. I see that funding fee now finally starting to rise. And when I was transferring Tether, it was still really cheap. And usually during massive crashes, the transfer fee for Tether ends up getting astronomical. Even if you were trying to
everyone's dumping.
send $100, it's like $60 in gas fees to do it. But it's still at like $1, $2, which is kind of telling me that people are running out of money to maybe potentially even that would be to sell to move it into Tether here. So
All right. Hey, you're in the green now. I'm kind of looking at the candles, so you're definitely in the green at the moment. So good job on jumping in.
Everyone is going to laugh at me.
Put that
once we go down to
stop loss
45.
into profit, and you're guaranteed a green trade there, Johnny. I don't do it either as often as I should. Now, I might try to make you sound un-American almost at this point, Drew. Because one, I do want to know what are your thoughts of this situation, but who do you trust more regarding this case? Do you trust CZ or the DOJ more?
Duh. Man, that's tough. Yeah, that's tough. You gave me the question, huh? So I would say, to be honest with you, man, I don't think what he did is too terrible, right? I think you kind of have to judge this on how many people were actually harmed, what was the harm that was done to those people, what was the monetary incentive for him to allow this to happen, and then what was the monetary, I guess, did anyone lose money, right? So I'm going to trust and say CZ, unfortunately. I've got to go and side with him on this because I think this is just my opinion. So obviously everybody else can have their own opinion and that's fine, right? They're like Escalades. Everybody has one. No one cares. But I'm on the show, so I'll tell you mine. Mine is that I think CZ did it just because he knew he was going to grow this business, right? That's what he was trying to do at the end of the day. He was trying to grow the business. He was trying to make the people around him money and obviously make himself money and try to get a foothold in this market, right? Did he cut some corners and do some things a little earlier than he should have, right? Without maybe consulting the proper authorities? Yes. Did he harm a bunch of people in the process? From what I can see, I don't see him harming a bunch of people in the process. Could people have been harmed? Yes. Right. But were they is the key factor in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and say CZ can throw up his 4 on Twitter. And honestly, I think he's kind of a gangster for doing that. That was pretty G in my book. And I feel like I'm on Trading Wars right now too, because Johnny is literally taking trades live.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. He brought up the
Wars.
Escalade. I thought he was talking about Sam Price for a second. But folks, this has been a wonderful show. I know Johnny needs to look at some Trading View. He's got to look at some Lux Algo or Market Cipher. Johnny, real quick, what indicator are you using?
I am using the VWrap and I'm using the RSI, and then I'm just using simple trading lines.
Hey, there's
support
nothing wrong with
resistance.
that. Sometimes that is simplicity is the key. Piano Matty B,
Yes.
are you going to open a trade?
I just wanted to add a side note that while CZ pays all this money and 4 months in jail, Nancy Pelosi and her gay, kinky, hammer-wielding husband that likes to fight gay prostitutes at night have never spent 1 day in jail or 1 cent of a fine. So that sums it up.
I know when I have home intruders, I open the door in my underwear with a drink in my hand. But anyways, folks, it's been a wonderful episode. Thank you for joining. I don't know where that comment came from, but hit that like button on your way out. We got to talk about some Tether conspiracies. We'll bring them to you next time we're live, folks. That's all we got.